Hello, lovely people. Welcome to week 7 of The Artist's Way, recovering a sense of connection. There is not terribly too much to talk about, so I'm going to kind of go quick because it's like kind of things that she has already talked about. I don't feel like she brought anything like totally new to the table on this chapter, but I got a new toy I'm very excited about. So I've been fucking around with that. It's been fun. And I used to work at a theme park where like during Halloween they would do like haunted houses and stuff, and they'd have like the same like fake fog machines all around, and it smells like the exact same. So it's very nice and nostalgic, and I don't know. I'm really pumped about it because it also like kind of opens the doors for a few projects that I've been waiting on to happen, and I'm very excited about that, so pumped. Okay. Week 7, recovering a sense of connection. She talks about it like a few different points. She talks about listening, perfectionism, jealousy, and then she has a couple like activities, which honestly, I feel like her activities should just be tasks. Like, they seem like they're the same thing. And again, I guess if she's, like, doing those activities, like, in class, because this is supposed to be, like, if she's doing those activities in class, because this is supposed to be, like, a curriculum, basically, like a, like, course that you would take at a college, I guess it makes sense, but for the structure of the book, I feel like she should have just included those as tasks. With listening, she reiterates like this is a technique that's honed by artist dates and the morning pages, because we haven't heard about those fucking enough. She compares like, your morning pages are a way to like hear, listen for our censor and get past that. And then the artist dates are used as like a like voice of inspiration. And I don't know, I did like that because I think it's like you're integrating out something that's not useful while like instead of like having a void space, you're integrating something new that ideally is also useful. I don't know. I kind of had a conversation with Mike last night that was like, it's interesting. I've been like within this book, I've been like paying more attention to like what my mind's telling me and what I think and that kind of thing. And it's really interesting to see how like my anxiety will like hop around, like rather than like, and there's no person who's like truly alleviated from anxiety, but it has been interesting to see how like it fights so hard to remain, and just like your brain, like it's more of your brain like using the pathways that it's used to using, and you just have to like train it to not use those things. Like within the like hearing past your sensor and like adding something in, like I feel like I was like taking out, like trying to integrate out my anxiety, but I didn't really have anything to do with my mind. Like the reason I have anxiety is because my mind needs like something to entertain itself, something to do, basically. And as a kid, I used to be really good about like just being observant and curious and open to learning, and I think I'm working in that direction, but like I'm like in the same vein I'm like integrating out this and trying to integrate out this anxiety, but not giving my mind something to do in place. And it's just been interesting that like, okay, I've decided to like, I've come to a good conclusion, or I feel like content about my job. So then my anxiety jumps to my relationship, or it jumps to like self-improvement, or it jumps to like body image, or just things like that. So it's like been, I don't know, it's been interesting to observe that happen. And I think it, to me at least, it makes it less scary, because it's like, that's like just old way of thinking. That's just a habit that I have, and I just need to like figure out all the layers of that habit to like integrate it out. And B, I feel like I don't know, it's like my anxiety has its own anxiety about like not existing. It's like kind of its own thing, rather than like just like identifying as like, I am anxious, I am a person with anxiety, you know? It like makes it feel separate, because it's like, oh well, it's just trying to exist in different ways. And I get that, I get why it's happening, I understand like the process and why my brain's doing that. And I like, me observing it in a like objective way, just like, I don't know, makes it feel less like personal. I think that's a good like way to say it. Makes it feel a lot less personal. So I don't know, just thoughts. But she goes on to talk about like listening, like in your art, and that's how like creativity happens, is you're just like listening or like tuning into the right like frequency in the universe. And I really like that. I think that's something, again, like whenever I've been like, I'm gonna try to be creative or try to like make high art, when my goal was like to create something that's like, one, it like put it in perspective of like creating for an audience or like a specific outcome, rather than like creating to create. And two, it was like really controlling of the process. And so like whenever I was like trying to be creative, or like reaching for creativity, like of course I felt blocked, or like, because it didn't come naturally as like a curiosity of like, okay, rather than being like, okay, I'm gonna sit down and be creative and try to come up with something really interesting or really cool. Like I could have like picked an interest and been like, okay, what do I want to like learn more about or think more about, or which I feel like it's so, I don't know, like like saying this out loud like solidifies it so much more for me. I'm definitely like an auditory processor, so I feel like it's, yeah, it just, I guess I've never like said that to myself that way. And yeah, I would like to do that more often. And I think that's where like people's like where you get like the be yourself or be unique, like uniquely you and your art, like all those stuff. Like I think that's what it is like listening to your own interest and being like, okay, what do I want to explore more? What do I want to like get further into? So flow with the process and collaborate with the universe. The one thing to wrap this like listening section up, the one thing she did say that I really liked, it wasn't the only thing, but one of the things that she said that I really liked was that the universe is a great artist, and artists love supporting other artists. And both parts of that statement, like, I like kind of going back to like the universe is a creator, therefore they are an artist, and like everything around us is like a creation and a piece of art and just something to be interested in. And then the second part of that statement being like, artists love to support other artists. And I think that's something bringing in, we'll skip over perfectionist and go to jealousy of like, I think I've always had like, which I'm gonna go back. I'm getting into weird tangents. So artists supporting other artists. I think that's something where it's like, I've been working towards and I want to feel and I want to be Um, and I think like in the past, like jealousy has always been like in the way of that. Um, and I just want, like, I'm excited to do that. And I think that's, again, like, I had a conversation with Mike last night about, of just like, I have never been in a space where like I could actually trust like the people on projects to like be artists and have their own creativity and um, bring a lot to the table. And I don't feel like I don't want to be a micromanager, I guess. Like I want people to come in and bring their own like the thing that excites me about acting and directing is that I will be like collaborating and working with like a huge group of artists that are all like hired to do a job and want to do well. And I'm really excited for that. And I just love that statement that she said about like artists support other artists. And on top of it too, the universe is like the great artist, and therefore like it will support anybody who's like looking to do something creative. And I think that extends to a lot of things and pursuit of creativity. So jealousy, I think that would be the next thing to talk about. So she doesn't do anything too crazy in the jealousy section. She has a jealousy map, which I thought was really like helpful. And I think it's like, again, it was something that like is definitely like a self-help type thing of like, most people when they understand their jealousy, it's because they're not like, it's because they aren't feeling like they have like a need met, or they're not getting like the validation or whatever they need externally. And what you really need to be doing is like giving that to yourself. So a few people that I like, my top one was other artists, because I realized in like that section that I was like, oh, you know, I like do want to be that person, and I have wanted to be that person, but this is a roadblock that's like stopping me. And I think it's just comes down to like, especially like as of lately, like my jealousy of other artists is coming from a place of like, I want to create, I want to do those things, and I want those opportunities. And instead of like sitting around being like, well, I can do better than these stupid Oscar movies. I'm not saying I can. Instead of like comparing myself to these people, then I need to just like create my stuff, create my things, and be happy with like what I'm creating. Especially too, because like in reality, like in the grand scheme of my life, like I haven't done anything too big scale. Like I did a lot of visual arts where like I felt like I like completed my vision. And that just took a lot less funding than like a movie does, or collaboration than a movie does. And again, going back to the loop of like building a community of artists and supporting a community of artists, of like my visual arts experience wasn't necessarily great at like allowing collaboration or like trusting other artists, if that makes sense. You know, if you're doing it independently, then like you're only relying on yourself. And especially too, like I was doing a lot of work personally, so like there wasn't like deadlines and like, oh, I have to make this happen, or like I could just work on something until I was happy with it, and I didn't have to have anybody else's approval on it or like input on it, which was like good for developing my own sense of like creativity, interest, and artistic ability, but also just not where I'm going, if that makes sense. So going back to perfectionism, I I feel like she's talked a lot about perfectionism, like the idea of perfectionism within like some of the like censor breaking down aspects of the previous chapters. So I don't feel like there was anything like too new in this section. Basically, she just says that like perfectionism is being obsessive to the point where like it's debilitating. Like you aren't moving forward with your art. And again, it's coming from like too much concern about like audience and craft and not enough like play and exploration within your art. Something she specifically said was that I really liked. Most directors know exactly how they're going to cut the film after they film it. And I think that is like a really great like idea, basically, of like, you know, sometimes you get on set or you get to the place where you're like plein air painting, or you go to dance and the things you like find in that moment or what you're feeling in that moment or what you see in that moment are different than what you imagined before. And you can either let that like bring down your process and like box your process in of like comparing it to what you had imagined before, or you can allow it to like inform your art and maybe you get a different shot or something interesting that you never like storyboarded, or you know, you like flow into a different dance move differently than you had before because you like feel differently that day or feel differently in front of an audience, or etc. So I think again it's coming back to like flowing with the process, and not listening to your censor or your logical side of your brain of like, oh well, people won't get this, or people aren't gonna like this, or this isn't like societally okay, or whatever. Okay, so safety is an expensive illusion. So within risk, you get to explore different things, learn different things, try new things. And if you're constantly in the state of healing in your comfort zone, then it's almost like being stagnant, I guess. And she doesn't really say this, but I think it's like fair to have those time periods of like, you know, you go out, make a big jump and grow and explore, and sometimes you need like recovery time for that. So it's like okay to be like within your like sense of safety, or maybe you like have a major experience that like allows you to learn a lot. And you like, for me, I need like safety and comfort, and like if my nervous system isn't regulated, then I'm not creating good art. Like that's when I'm blocked. That's when I'm like, I don't know. I think like, I definitely think there's a place for risk, and I think there's a place like to like moving out of your head and making sure action happens, and also just like small risks too, of like being bad at something so you can be good at something later, or trying a new hobby, or etc. Trying like a new like art piece, but I also think too, like, don't villainize your like safety and comfort zone, because I think there needs to be that sense of too. And I think too, like learning, I think that's something I've been like trying to like be better about, is being more like content and okay, and like less anxious or limiting myself when I'm in these like transition stages, or out of my comfort zone, or in these changing, like things are changing around me. And I think so I think balancing out like your risk versus safety, like don't have too much safety, because I've been there too, of like, you know, I feel like the past couple of years I've been in this like state of like trying to fix myself, or like become this person that I need to be. And there's certain amounts of that time that I really needed to like take time and do those things. But I think there were also like elements of this like time where like I could have gone out and like had fun, or tried something new, or explored something, and still accomplish the things that I wanted to accomplish. So that's that section. The final thing she has you do before the task is complete the phrase. I really liked those, but also don't be afraid to like alter the phrase a little bit, because there were a few where I just felt like she was like really trying to lead you to something specific within the way she phrased it. And so I disagreed with, like, I wanted to get something different out of it, and so I made that happen. And I wasn't like really crazy about the task this week. Again, I love the list, so I did the 5 favorite films. I had 6 actually, which I was kind of surprised, because I kind of just let myself like over time, because I feel like recently I've been like, well, what are my 5 favorite films now versus like my 5 favorite films as a kid, and that kind of thing. And over time, I had, number 1, I had Phantom of the Opera. Number 2, I had Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. Love, love, love. Number 3, I had Beauty and the Beast. Number 4, I'm gonna do this. I can't. You get it. Oh, a cardinal. Beautiful. Number 4, I had Bottoms. Number 5, I had Everything Everywhere All at Once. And then number 6, I had Hunchback of Notre Dame. So I think too, like, I was surprised that I had so many like animation films in my list. But also that was something that like I really liked as a kid. Like I loved animation as a kid and a teenager. So I would love to I need to sit down and do like my 5 favorite TV shows, because I think I would kind of find something similar too, of like truly until I was like 22, I was like, I watched so much like animation as a kid, animated TV shows, and then like adult animation later on. And I don't know, I just love animation. That's something that doesn't get recognized at the Oscars enough. Spider-Man in the Spider-Verse should have won Best Picture the year that it was up for an Oscar. And rarely are animated pictures ever considered. Like Beauty and the Beast is the only animated picture that has ever won a Best Picture Oscar, and that was kind of like the first time like people ever took animation seriously, which is so silly. So some of the other tasks she has you do is 7 topics you like to read about. I really like that too, because that was another like, what are your natural interests, and like how can you explore more of those? She went really like genre based, but I did like more like specific topics. Like one of mine was, I kind of like grouped topics together. So one of mine was like sociology, psychology, like self, the human mind, that kind of thing. So I really like learning about that and reading about that. Thank y'all for listening. Hopefully this was a short video. I'm feeling good. I'm feeling like it wasn't like 45 minutes to an hour this time, and I only have to cut it down to like 20 minutes. So that would be amazing. I have some projects coming up, so look out for those. I'm very excited. And have a great day. Live life to the fullest. Create. Be. Love. Subscribe. Like. Check out my channel. And again, have a great day.